I think there is broad-spread sense among scientists and pediatricians that not only are children more susceptible to advertising, but in fact screen time is not even necessarily good for children. I think it was in the last couple of days the American Association of Pediatricians said you should limit your children to no more than 1 hour a day of television. By that rule, myself and other people our generation were completely had our minds blown already, so it's amazing we can even function anymore. But I think children are generally, understood to be more credulous. You certainly absorb, if you absorb a brand as a child, this is one of the reasons branding in particular has always been, or brands have always been particularly focused on children, is because a brand association from a young age, now I'm not a neuroscientist, but straightforward logic tells you that a brand association, Coca-Cola, Heinz, Cadillac, BMW, whatever it is, once you have that in your head as something of quality or value, it will stick. I mean, I could see my daughter, who is 3, recognizes Delta Airlines, Skype. She recognizes all these various logos. She uses the word FaceTime. So I think this has always been a concern. The extent to which it's regulated or overseen depends on the administration. I think things were kind of in the 50s and the 80s were sort of an all-time low in terms of how much oversight there was, and it was sort of everything goes. And I think there's more attention paid to how much advertising children get today. However, I'll say that's happening. On the other hand, sorry to go on a bit, there has been an increase in the last half decade of advertising in schools. And maybe that's something you want to talk about, is that because there has been such a decrease in public funding, some public schools, especially in poor areas, have become so desperate that they've started selling out the inside of the school for advertising purposes. So you can see pictures, some schools in Minnesota, some in California, where the very halls, the lockers are totally covered in banner ads. So you walk through the school and it's a constant advertising experience. So that's a trend in the opposite direction. How well does that work? What's that? I don't think they make all that much money. I mean, these schools need millions of dollars. How well does it work? The companies seem happy with it. The advertisers seem happy with it. How well does it work for saving schools? I don't think they make that much money. They mean millions, and they're getting hundreds of thousands in advertising revenue, but maybe at the margins. So it goes back to this idea of there being certain spaces that were once sort of inviolate or sacred that are being, I think, increasingly commercialized on the edges. One of the things I read about doing research for this book, another space you think there would never be advertisement is churches. But there are, it's not all the time, but there are certainly efforts, particularly by Hollywood filmmakers, to try to put product placements in the sermons. So for example, The Man of Steel, when it came out, Superman movie, they had a lot of screenings for pastors. They had this sermon provided, Jesus, first superhero, all this kind of stuff. Sometimes they've had contests, mail in that you used the name of our movie in your sermon, and we'll enter you in a draw for money or a free trip or something. So there's even efforts to try to get church audiences. In other words, what I'm saying is a lot of the sacred spaces have become challenged in our times.